You're listening to No Hipsters Pod.
Well, if you were upset, then let me give you something to be mad about. If you can identify with R. Kelly personally, then you're a motherfucking degenerate. Point blank period. And maybe your ass need to be up under the jail right along with R. Kelly. Okay?
Episode 48, No Hipsters Pod. It's your boy Ronte, the founder of NoHipstersAllowed.com. And this week, our co-host is my friend, Nneka Obiekwe. Nneka, say what's up.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again. I mean, wow, 3 times. I'm feeling myself.
Of course. I mean, listen, there's no one who talks about certain things better than you do. And I think this is just a perfect time to have you here. Unfortunately, there's so many abusers in the press right now, and I guess an abuser adjacent people in the press as well. And so there's just no one else I'd rather have on right now. And so actually, before we get to the topics, just remind the people again about Vanede and the work you do over there.
Sure, absolutely. So Vanede is an anti-sexual assault and domestic violence training organization. And we really focus on normalizing these sorts of conversations. Quite frankly, we want everyone to be smart on topics relating to interpersonal violence. We create safe spaces to have what are normally coined as difficult discussions, but what we coin as just real life. And not only enable these discussions to happen, encourage them to be as provocative as they need to be, but really with the goal of infusing fundamental understanding of violence, interpersonal violence, the violence and control wheel, and hopefully enabling a safer community. We do these sorts of workshops in beauty spaces, women-owned organizations, and we are also available for hire when needed and are open to all male, all female, and co-ed spaces. So work with us, come talk to us, come be a part of these spaces. Let's normalize these discussions so that we can bring it out in the open and make sure it doesn't keep happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's get to the topic. So this is just really a few hours old. R. Kelly has been found guilty on all 9 counts for which he was tried. The first count is for racketeering, and under that, there were 14 acts that included sexual exploitation of a child, kidnapping, bribery, and sex trafficking charges. And then there were 8 other counts related to the Mann Act, which is a sex trafficking law. So 9 counts. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but his lawyer is saying that they will appeal. So just what are your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, finally,
right.
Finally, like, please put him under the jail.
Post haste.
It's just, it's, I'm happy to get this predator off of the street. I'm disappointed as always that it takes so much to do so.
Right.
I think it speaks, this narrative and this conversation is not new. When it's Black women and Black lives at stake, it just seems to be something that we twiddle our thumbs at, and we just need more evidence and more evidence and more evidence. This idea of I need to hear more, or I need to hear from more victims, or
there isn't video already.
Like there isn't video, but also it's like these aren't lives, like these aren't people and humans who have to experience these things in order to then convince you that it happened. I just am hopeful for a world where we don't have to, so many people don't have to experience trauma and live and breathe trauma in order for us to believe that it happens as often as it does. So happy to see this finally, this terrible, rumor turn clear factual evidence, turn just disturbing behavior finally come to light and be addressed. But, I'm like, all right, what's next? How do we create a culture and a world where we don't let this happen and these young women don't have to experience this sort of stuff?
Right. Yeah. Listen, I think part of the work you do is will be instrumental in creating that world. I'm always just struck by the fact that this is 17 years after we got the tapes, right? Mm-hmm. Or possibly even longer. And this is after Aaliyah and all the other stuff that's happened. And it's wild. And it's funny, even during this trial, there was all this audio and actually video as well that was presented during the trial. And it's just the amount of evidence is just, it's crazy. that we're only finally able to get a measure of justice against R. Kelly. And it's really, I mean, I have no other words. And it's just, I don't know where they think this is going to go as far as appeal is concerned. But hopefully that's dead in the water when they do try, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think what's also, kind of scary, and we're seeing this in other examples, and then we're going to get to Nicki Minaj later.
Right.
Why these rape apologists? I mean,
don't get me started.
I mean, it's really the people who say, "Oh, I'm still going to listen to him, and we're not going to bring him down." And I'm not going to get into the experience of survivors who support him. I understand that he clearly had a hold on these women, and there was a lot of brainwashing that happened. And we're talking about manipulation, sexual abuse, and a heavy dose of domestic violence in terms of the way he was controlling these women. So,
and we're also talking about just the money and fame. I mean, I think that factors into the kind of hold that he has over these women, and also just how forgiving people have been towards him over the years.
Yeah, you're right. The fame, and not to be confused with money and fame in the sense of, well, of course there's a glorification, people putting him on a pedestal, but people often forget too, money, fame, those are elements of control. And people oftentimes situate themselves below famous people. And power, control, I can't say it enough, fundamental to violence, and of all kinds: sexual violence, domestic violence, gun violence, control, fear. All of these things are very much intrinsic to what we're talking about. And so when we talk about fame, when we talk about power, and being wealthy and things of this nature, it's not just because you look to them like, oh, I just want to be around you. That there's some of that in there for sure. We saw it in the documentaries. But what's also there is an element of control that he's able to have and maintain over them, that maybe they aren't always aware of. And we have to really talk about putting humans on pedestals. It is consistently dangerous. We see it in the church. Putting them on pedestals, and they're molesting children, and no one wants to speak up. When there are power positions in place, not only do people find themselves in these positions, they find themselves in a place where they are uncomfortable addressing it, and they're uncomfortable speaking out against it. And they know, quite frankly, exactly what is happening will happen. They speak out against R. Kelly, people speak down on them. They speak out against R. Kelly, people vow to never stop playing his music. They speak out on R. Kelly, and people call them all kinds of stupid and gold diggers and everything else. So why would anybody want to speak out against a public figure? And so it's really unfortunate, the kind of world we have, where there are also people that are such fans of him and his music that they refuse to acknowledge the terrible things he's done, and they continue to support him financially and everything else. And what sort of message does that send to survivors, both the survivors of R. Kelly and beyond? You see people supporting clear predators, then you go deeper into your silence, you go deeper into your trauma, and you feel that you're not enough. You're not important enough to be fought for, to be advocated for, or to have justice being brought for you. And that is why we have a problem where we have an enormous amount of more people that are victims than we have people who are willing to speak about it.
From one convicted predator to really another one, Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, who was convicted of attempted rape in 1994, and who, by the way, was also convicted for first-degree manslaughter years later. His victim, a lady named Jennifer Hough, gave her first televised interview with The Real last week, and she goes into grave detail about what happened.
I'm continuously pleading with him. I'm asking him, like, what do you want? Like, if you just want me to chill here with you, I will. And then he said I knew what he wanted. He pushed me down on the bed. We wrestled for my clothes because all I could do was hold my pants like this, as tight as I can. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to like really fight. I just held on to my pants, and he'd hold my arms down, and he squeezed the sides of my stomach so hard. And so I'd let go, and as soon as I let go, he'd grab my pants. It was like a tug of war. After a while, I just got tired. And I just felt maybe if he hurry up, I could just hurry up and leave.
Basically, we find out that the attempted rape conviction was really a technicality. She was raped. And during the process of trial and I guess deals being made, it was downgraded to attempted rape. And similarly, that actually happened with his murder charge as well. It was murder that got downgraded to manslaughter. So she goes into great detail, and she talks about how her family pressured her to drop the charges out of fear. And so that's how it ended up being an attempted rape situation. And now, years later, Nicki Minaj marries this man and is sending her conduits to this woman to pressure her to recant her story, offering her money. Nicki Minaj actually spoke to her over the phone, she says.
Jennifer, have you ever spoken to Nicki directly?
I did, in March of 2020. She called me, and she said that she got word that I was willing to help them out in a situation. I didn't understand what she was referring to. She offered to fly me and my family to LA. I turned it down, and I told her, woman to woman, this really happened. And I hadn't spoken to her since.
Now, you allege that Nicki and Kenneth were harassing you. In what way?
With them sending people to negotiate numbers as far as money is concerned with family members. And Nicki is the one who personally reached out to me. She's, in regards to helping them in this situation. And then the threats that I received because I kept saying no to every offer, to every suggestion. The last incident was when one of their associates put $20,000 on my lap, and I still kept saying no. The last message I received was that I should have taken the money because they're going to use that money to put on my head.
So this is really scary stuff. And this is just coming on the heels of Nicki being an anti-vaxxer and doing weird shit on Twitter, which some people now think was actually done intentionally because she knew that this was going to come out and that she had been summoned by the court around the same time. I don't know how true any of that is, but the timing was really quite oddly in sync. And also, since this has happened, she's going to concerts and posting pictures, just, going about her life. Not that I expect her to change, but she seems unbothered by these new revelations about her and her husband. And so I actually want to know if you saw the interview, what are your thoughts on this? And also, any parallels between this and R. Kelly?
Yes, I saw the interview. Thanks to your blog. Thanks for keeping me up to speed.
I do my best.
Everything. But no, I did see the interview. Wow. I'm really happy I saw it because there's just nothing like watching a victim's account. And really, you can still feel the weight of her trauma years later. And I think that's number one important because I believe when Nicki first, came out and said she was dating Kenneth and people were like, what, you're dating a convicted rapist, sis? And she's saying, 16 years ago, he was 15 or however many years ago.
Right.
He was 15, she was 16. So there was number one, this underlying kind of narrative that she tried to tout that it was, so long ago. And you saw in the victim's face that I don't care how long ago it was, that she can still enter that moment today.
Right.
And there is no timeline on how long someone is allowed to heal from trauma, especially in this sort of situation where she's being harassed and where she is trying to move on or trying to own her power. Reclaiming power is a common thing that people want to do. Again, power and control real, feeling as though you don't have power, doing things to really earn back your power in certain situations. So speaking out is a reclamation of her power in this situation. And still they try to use power, fame, control, and all these tactics of coercion to dominate her more and to silence her. Right. It's just clear patterns, predatory patterns shown by both Kenneth as a creep and Nicki as a lover of creeps. Right. But yeah, I saw it, was really disappointed, was disgusted by the account of the rape itself. But Nicki, girl,
she is squandering so much goodwill, and just like it's terrible to see someone do this to their legacy in real time. And it's just, what kills me is just the lengths she has gone to lie about this situation. She tried to make people believe that the victim might have been, a white, basically she said things that would make you think that this was a white woman who this happened to.
Something that he was wrongfully accused of doing when he was 15 years old. Well, because he didn't have $7,000 to get himself bailed out. Because when you in the hood at 15, you don't have that kind of money, and neither does your family. And when the alleged accuser wrote a letter to the judge asking to recant these statements, she was told that she would go to jail for 90 days, allegedly, if she recants the statement. But white is right.
She just made up all these things to discredit, and that makes her, to me, even more guilty. It would be one thing if you just married this guy with a questionable past and just stayed quiet. You've used your platform, you use your voice, you've kind of sicked your fans on this woman because this woman is being harassed now, being threatened. Like it's the willingness to use your power for evil in that way is what really takes me aback, and it will be difficult to be a fan moving forward because I've always been a fan of her music, but this is really, really bad in my opinion.
Well, and again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. When we put people on pedestals, we give them the power to do what they want with it. And the assumption that someone who feels on top of the world is going to always use it for good is just naive, quite frankly. And, she already has an established pattern. She has a creep for a brother who is raping an 11-year-old.
Absolutely.
Consistently, and supported him and paid his legal fees and spoke out on his behalf. She has shown that she's not a woman for women, and she's not someone who truly supports and understands the impact of trauma. And the sad part is, if somebody told me she was a trauma victim, I would believe you. Because that's how complex these conversations can be. If someone told me she was a trauma victim, I would absolutely believe you. Wow. And something about this, she's giving predatory vibes in the way that she's, trying to silence the victim, and again, try to use her money and like you said, platform and everything else to scare her and to,
intimidate
her. I mean, that is like really concerning behavior. But also, I feel like she has to go somewhere really deep inside of her to pretend the men in her life that she loves are not disgusting humans. Right. And sometimes people that have gotten really accustomed to doing that, especially if they've experienced it before from these people in some cases, it becomes a pattern that they themselves are adopting, right? And so this is, that's 100% speculation. So I'm not even going to give her that credit in this moment. But what I will say is, I have been sitting here really trying to understand how and why we arrived here. Why she has chosen this route for herself and for her family. And if you believe it enough, I guess, to be trying to silence the girl, then you could be using your platform to say, rehabilitation, right? Some people talk about rehabilitation for rapists. Okay. Right. What are you doing to change some of his behavior? How can you create a platform that maybe says that there is an opportunity for people to grow from their past and to go through treatment and things of that nature? Use your platform for good, but you are out here going down bad. And I'm going to tell you right now, the only people worse than Nicki are the people that are still going to listen to her music, are the people that still listen to R. Kelly, the people that still listen to Chris Brown. Don't get me on my list of people, because I got a list and I do not play about that list.
Listen, because I'm the same. I'm trying to be like, draw a hard line and really just get rid of certain people from my playlist, because it's either you're you're one thing or the other. Pick a side. And so
you gotta pick a side.
Right. Even honestly, Soulja Boy, people don't talk about him enough, but he should be on that list as well. He actually beat his I guess ex-girlfriend Nia Riley to the point where she lost her baby. And so yeah. So there are a lot. So that's another one. But yeah, this whole Nicki thing, it's really, really troubling. And it's just, and I've always thought that she was kind of a mean person, but this is beyond meanness.
Yeah.
This is now getting into the territory of dangerous behavior, right? And someone who doesn't really have a conscience, because I don't know how you bring yourself to, and I understand that she's defending her husband, but if you're being told that your husband has done something that violent to someone, at what point do you at least start to consider that other person, And so I don't know. It's very strange. I don't think her image will ever recover from this, and nor should it. So I don't know.
No,
I guess we'll keep watching.
Because if image is all these people have to stand on, then that's another issue fundamentally. Like let's talk about the world we live in, where image is whatever we've decided it'll be. We're 100% bought into it. We make you rich off this image, and behind closed doors, you're a terrible freaking person.
Right.
And to your point, yeah, if we really sat down and put an entire list together of our own, just our community alone, artists and entertainers, and the violence against other people, you got people like DaBaby and all these disgusting people.
Right.
It's like, why do we keep making them rich? Like, I will literally have a song on, I'm like, dancing, it'll be like accidentally Tory Lanez. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And it's like, wait, if I can't just freely let Spotify play, then let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about what's going on in our community.
Right.
Where we can't even comfortably watch The Cosby Show. We can't listen to I Believe I Can Fly. Okay, like, shoot, let's talk about Michael Jackson. Okay, like, we don't want to get on the stuff people say about Frank. I know.
Ooh, okay, all right. I mean,
we don't like to do it.
We don't. And yeah, I guess this will be me being a hypocrite, because
you're like, wait now. I don't like DaBaby, but Mike, that's my guy.
Wait. To Michael's credit, he was found not guilty. Of course, we and I know that doesn't always mean anything, but and there's strong evidence to suggest that some of those accusers were funny or had ulterior motives. But really, at this point, I really am at a place where I look at those two cases differently now that I'm older, and I'm trying to apply the same standards that I've applied to other situations. And you're absolutely right. Like, we really do have to think about Michael. It's tough.
No, I need you to really think about this. Let me tell you why. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of, granted, don't get me wrong, Mike is Big Mike. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of people that'll touch him in terms of celebrity and influence, but did any women say that he abused them? It's like, how did we get to this? I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
All I'll say is there's a lot of artists who have not had that allegation. And so
True.
We're really quick to say, why somebody has, ulterior motives and everything else. And it's possible. But the real point is, because I'm not going to, turn this into a debate.
Right.
The real point is, if I can't just casually flip through the TV and casually listen to music, because my moral compass today, at least, is trying to avoid people who may have strong accusations against them or shown openly, homophobic or misogynistic viewpoints, ones that are at the level of being harmful. Then we have to address who are these people that we're putting in these levels of influence, bringing into our homes via their music, etc., and putting them on a pedestal, putting their platforms on a pedestal. And what's the root cause of this issue that's gotten us here? Because you asked me a really good question before we started today, and you said, why does it feel like today is the day where, all these predators are in the news? And my response was, because all these predators are everywhere. And that is at the core, that's our issue. And we've let this issue be an issue to the point where we've lost control of it. And we really can only see and understand it when it's magnified in this way because it's being committed by people that we've glorified and put on these pedestals. But it doesn't negate the fact that this is happening. I don't know what Reign's most recent stats are. Every 100 and something seconds, we have an issue that is, we can't get through a dinner without it happening. We can't sit at a table with more than 6 people without knowing that at least one person at the table has been assaulted.
Wow.
And we can't listen, as I was just saying, to our favorite artists because it's now in direct opposition to our, beliefs around, wanting to support women and go against interpersonal violence. We can't reconcile that if we keep allowing it to happen the way we are.
Right. And you mentioned RAIN. I know what RAIN is, but I don't think every listener would. It's RAINN. That can help me out with the disambiguation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. So it's a national interpersonal violence or anti-sexual assault, organization. I've done lots of work with RAIN. Was a hotline advocate for them for 4 years, literally just quote unquote retired a few months ago. A fantastic resource for these sorts of conversations. I've learned a ton in just being, in that network. But yes, you can go to rain.org. Lots of great resources, lots of great conversations around different topics around interpersonal violence. And yes, they're a really great source of data. And what would have the most up-to-date data around how often sexual violence occurs every day, and then, from a population standpoint.
Let's change gears and talk about the really heartbreaking pictures from the U.S.-Mexico border that shows Border Patrol agents on horses and with whips running after and basically rounding up Haitian migrants who are basically fleeing hardship from Haiti and arrived at the U.S. border and basically being sent back. And it just the images are just really mind-blowing. I really didn't think anything like that. I didn't even know people like the U.S. government still kept and used whips in that way. But it's like I'm speechless. Honestly, it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen, and I hate that. First of all, because this is happening while the U.S. is admitting thousands of Afghan, basically asylum seekers, refugees, and so I don't know why a country that is able to do that for citizens of this country is this harsh in rejecting a much smaller group of people from this other country. The whole thing is just disgusting. Aside from the obvious racism, you just see that clearly not every, I guess, refugee is created equal. So I just want to know what your thoughts were on this.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, those images were shocking. And I know I've read some stuff that claims that the whips are for the horses and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
right.
Right. Like, it's just like,
This
okay.
video of him like looking like they're about like I don't know if I didn't see anyone actually strike them, but they're using it in ways to basically intimidate, which is almost as bad. Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think you hit it right on the head with it really hits close to home when you see, I was just traveling a couple of weeks ago and I actually saw the Afghan refugees. They're coming in at IAD in Virginia. I saw them both on my trip out and on my trip back. And quite frankly, I was happy for them, right? I'm happy to see people, be able to seek refuge in the quote unquote land of the free. I saw young kids and my heart kind of fluttered for them that they were safe, only to kind of come home and just days later see the images of, these Haitian, individuals
who also had young kids, by the way.
And children. I mean, and they were hanging. I mean, just the images themselves. So many different images are popping in my head right now. And then also reading about their journey. That this wasn't just a quick little jaunt, quite frankly.
Right.
That the journey to America was, they didn't even, not everyone made it. It was an unsafe terrain. It's an unsafe place, or going through, drug-ridden, violence-ridden places where not everyone's even making it out, and they arrive here and they're treated in that way. I can't imagine what it's like to not have a home, to not feel like anywhere is home. Right. And to be that desperate to seek home elsewhere, because my home is no longer a home. I think that many of us don't even take the time to meditate on what that experience must be like. And I have been over the past week, and really trying to hold on to a level of gratitude that both in the physical and spiritual sense, I have a home. With that said, I don't really know what to think of the Afghan versus the Haitian, differences, because we also know how poorly Afghans have been treated in this country as well. So
of course.
Very thrown off, and I have been trying to kind of stay away from making too much of a connection. I am very disappointed in the Biden administration. I'm disappointed in the way things are being handled. Right. And I'm wondering, what's next for them? We're putting them on planes and sending them home.
Right.
What is next? Like, what happens then? I really don't have any words, honestly, but just a lot of disappointment.
Yeah. And obviously maybe like my comparison might very well be uneducated, coming from a layman as opposed to someone who's like a diplomat or like, a State Department employee who would know the ins and outs of these things. Mm-hmm. But to my layman's eye, what I see is a country admitting literally tens of thousands of refugees from one country and then rounding up a few hundred from another with whips. Yeah. And to me, as false as my understanding might be, to me, the optics are atrocious. And so they need to fix that. So that's all I got.
The optics are disgusting. They're also remnants of the Trump administration.
Right. And I get that, but and I hate to be this way, but Biden is president now. Yeah. And so I think it will be his business and it will be seen as his business if this continues. So definitely.
Yeah. My understanding is, he had the authority to change this, policy and did not. Right. And I've also seen quite a bit of, a disturbing amount of officials, not necessarily White House, but like Homeland Security, etc., supporting what they saw. They're like, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with it. And this is, they if you are not coming here legally, then you shouldn't be coming. You will be turned away. There's just not a lot of empathy at all. They've completely disconnected themselves from the lives of these individuals. And I think it goes back to That's why we scream Black Lives Matter, because when we see these images, they hurt us, and some people see them and don't see anything at all.
Winners and losers. Nneka, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so first and foremost, I do want to say the whole Biden administration, they're a bunch of losers to me. I'm sorry. And I hate to add this on here because, I tried to give the AKAs some time. I really did. Like I said, okay, VP. I mean, Deltas would have been president, but okay, VP. And but at the end of the day, I was, hey, yes, girl, I'm supporting you. And Biden, you know what? You were a little cuckoo when you were a VP, but I'm just hoping that something has changed since then. I am underwhelmed. I've forgotten about both of them.
Damn.
I have. I mean, I remember them because of this Haiti conversation. I've been looking like, come on, Biden, what are you going to do? Kamala, girl, the AK is going to have a convention. They have to talk about it. They're going to have to talk about it. But so they are, big time losers in my book right now. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because we need legitimate change right now. So I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. Winners, definitely Jennifer Hough. I think that's how you say Hough. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. I've been saying, I've heard people say Hough. I said, I'm pretty sure it's Hough. But yeah. But I get why you would think Hough though. But Hough.
Yes, I just want to say Jennifer, talk to someone about the spelling. But yes, Jennifer Hough, like I said earlier, coming out and speaking out against your abuser on this kind of platform, especially when your abuser is powered with a platform as big as Nicki Minaj's. And she's been getting death threats since her interview. She is showing power. She is showing resilience. She is leading the way for people who have never, ever spoken up about what's happened to them. And I think that she is an example just to a lot of people. And I hope that she feels that power. But she's definitely a winner in my book. And, I just am sending a lot of positive vibes to her. Also want to add, Nicole Richie, girl, look, I don't know if she's a winner or a loser for her hair catching on fire. Not really sure, but it was like, sis, it was probably one of the funniest things I saw last week. She's alive, she's safe, so we are allowed to laugh about it. And right. She posted it herself. But a winner for being able to laugh at herself and posting that good little gem on the internet. So those are my two.
Right. Okay. All right. My losers really are the producers of The View. I don't know if you saw this past Friday, but two of the hosts, yes, Sunny Hostin and Anna Navarro, both found out that they had tested positive for COVID, and they found out during the show. And there was this big dramatic moment where they tell them while the camera's rolling on live TV and have them walk off the set mid-show.
Two of you to step off for a second. Okay.
Anna and
we're going to bring
Sunny
you back later.
Have to leave.
Yeah. Yes.
And we'll tell you why.
More information later. It's a tease.
We'll tell you why in a couple of minutes.
And I'm just thinking, why do you have to make that much of a spectacle? Like, you could just done that during the commercial break or just cut to commercial at that moment and, have them walk off. But they created this spectacle, and I didn't like it,
Yeah.
You don't have to play them like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Kamala Harris was actually there and was supposed to come out like in a few seconds. And so she ended up having to give her interview from another room at the studio. So yeah, it was a lot of drama. And yeah, I think they I like that they have these protocols in place, but I think they could have done better by Sunny and Anna. So the producers of The View are my losers. And my winner is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the legendary NBA player who has come out with a strong statement about NBA players who are refusing to get the vaccine. And he's saying very, very clearly that the NBA should, quote, insist that all players and staff are vaccinated or remove them from the team. There is no room for players who are willing to risk the health and lives of their teammates, the staff, and the fans simply because they are unable to grasp the seriousness of the situation or do the necessary research. And I couldn't agree more. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar speaking out. And honestly, I hate that we're still like having this conversation.
Ridiculous.
I'm ready for this to be done. I'm ready to like not have to wear a mask anywhere. I'm ready to be able to like travel without all these like rules I have to follow, and tests that I have to do. So everyone listening, please get vaccinated. Like, enough is enough. That's our show. Nneka, as always, this was a pleasure. You dropped so many gems, and there's no better person to discuss such serious topics with, and I hope you come back. So before we leave, let us know where we can find you and Vanede on social media.
Yes, you can find Vanede, VANEDE_US on Instagram. You can also find me on Instagram, Nneka_Obiekwe. Just check the episode for the spelling. It'll be there. Don't worry about it. Look, if you're not Nigerian, it's okay. But yes, follow me on Instagram, follow Vanede. And you know what? Tell me what you guys think. I want to hear some of y'all's thoughts on these topics as well.
Yep, episode 48, No Hipsters Pod. Talk to you next time. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.